So we talked a little bit about Campfire, and I do want to get to your writing process and your book and stuff. But since we've been talking about that a little bit, so do you want to kind of explain a little bit of what you do there, and then maybe what Campfire is for people who don't know?
Yeah. It's a little odd because Campfire is a lot of things. That's probably one of the first things that you notice if you go to the website. But Campfire started in 2018 as a writing software, and it was just writing. And then over the years, it's gotten more and more stuff. I joined the team, I believe, in 2020, maybe 2021. I don't know, one of those. And most of my time has been spent designing and updating those writing tools. So, for example, my specific role is like, the button should go here, and it should have this text, and it should do this. Those kinds of things, broadly speaking. And so, that, of course, tenfold for, one of the big projects I've done is we redesigned I designed the manuscript module, which is like our text editor. And then we redesigned it a couple of times, just like learning from the community what people were doing with it, what people wanted to do with it, and trying to continuously improve these things. There's a whole bunch of other stuff too, like one of my favorite projects was the map module, which before I got my hands on it was just kind of like, you put up an image and you could pin some locations on it, and that was pretty much it. It was cute, and I am really interested in maps, so I added a whole bunch of stuff to it. Now you can do all that stuff, but in addition, you can create like zones instead of like single pins. You can add labels now. You can one of my favorite features is like you can put a scale on the map, and then you put in whatever unit and measurement that you want, and then we use that, compare it against like the pixels on your screen, and you can just measure distances based on whatever measurement you choose. So if you need to tell the distance between two locations, you can just do that. You don't have to guess.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. So like that's part of it. The other part more recently has been getting into the reading app side of things. This was something that kind of came up over the course of working there. We've like slowly shifted away from developmental stuff. Like authors, we're still supporting it, obviously. That's like the bulk of what we do. But we've made a big push recently into trying to create a reading app where people can publish their work, self-publish their stuff, and really trying to make a good experience for the authors. Like we give authors 80% royalties instead of like the traditional 70%. And we give them all these extra tools, like I said, to give them we have like the maps module, for example. It has like these interactive maps people are putting in. So why don't we show that to the reader and let them play with it? Same thing for all of the character profiles and, short stories and, items or species, like all these different things that we just have as part of the writing software, use them in the reading software to give people a unique experience. And one of the things that we came up with to share that with people, which actually this really helps with spoilers too, is you can unlock them as you go. So if a new character is introduced in chapter 3, you don't get to see them until you finish chapter 3. And then it's like, new character unlocked, you can go check them out. And that's so just cool. Like a lot of little things like that to create like a really unique experience for readers and to be like very pro-author, supportive of people who are creating this content.
I find that's so innovative, because I've often thought that like doing, just like regular ebooks of a fantasy novel, like we have so much technology now where you could do so much more to make them like come to life for the reader. And so I just think that's super cool of like as you're reading the story, you're unlocking all the metadata.
Yeah, and
like,
you don't have to necessarily participate in that at all. We have a lot of authors who just put the ebook up and they're happy with that, and that's fine. But then we also have other authors who take full advantage of this. There's Liz Sacco is one that comes to mind. I might have pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry if I did. Her books come with like 50 extras that are just like a ton of art. That some of it is stuff that she made, and like behind the scenes stuff. My editor I mentioned earlier, he put one up and added a whole bunch of like behind the scenes. Like in this chapter, I was aiming to do this, and like little extra commentary if you're interested and really enjoy the story and you want to learn like how it was made. I'm planning to do that with my book as well. I'm going to publish it wide and allow people to read it wherever they want. But on Campfire, obviously, I have all these extra tools, so may as well use them. I'm going to include a bunch of extra art that I've gotten made for the book, and I'm personally made a bunch of maps for the different locations, behind the scenes stuff. Like it's not a ton, but I think each piece of it is going to be interesting to look at. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm one to, and I think it depends on who the reader is. Like, I'm one that I love all that stuff. So, like, I love watching the behind the scenes of a movie. When the Lord of the Rings movies came out and they had 9 hours of extras for each movie, that was like, heaven for me. I loved it. I watched I've memorized it. So that kind of like being able to, you can read the book, but then you can also get all these kind of maps and character sheets and like this different stuff is really cool. But that's also, I think, a cool way to draw people to the platform. Like, adds a little extra.
Yeah, for sure. It gives us something to say, like, you can read the book anywhere, but if you come here, then if you're the author, you can actually monetize some of the behind the scenes stuff that you've been working on. And if you're the reader, you get to enjoy that. That definitely has been the biggest hurdle for us, is finding the readership, though, because we've built ourselves up on authors who are notoriously not the best readers, as a whole. Obviously, I think reading is like almost essential for learning to write, but not everybody views it that way or has time, frankly. And so it's definitely been that's been the biggest challenge. But we're always like working on new ways to try and bring people in. And just, the biggest issue right now is just we just started. We don't have a big library yet, which is kind of good for the people who are there, because that means their book is seen more. But as it grows, I think it's going to be easier to bring more readers on. And as more readers come, then more authors come in. And it just, once it gets going, it's a whole like repeating cycle.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so on the writing side of things, what are some of the things that Campfire can really offer? I've messed with Campfire a little. I've played in there a little bit, but I've never really totally dove into it. So what are for writers? What are some of the things it can offer?
It's kind of whatever you want to make of it, which is an awful answer, and I'm sorry. So like it has a pretty standard text editor, and you can come and you can just use that, and that can be the only thing that you ever do, and that's fine. The way that everything is priced as well, like you don't have to get anything else if that's the only tool you use. If you want to go further and like go beyond the free trial limits of the other modules, you might create a whole cast of character sheets for each project. And, you could have like organized, just like you organize your chapters in a list, you could have your main characters and secondary characters and so on. A lot of people really enjoy doing that. Maps obviously are a big thing. We don't help you create the map, but we can help you put like stuff over top of it and connect it with other like locations that you've made, or like show character progress. There's one person, I actually made a map for him a while ago for a different project. I do map design on the side. I don't think I mentioned that. I made a map for him, and one of the things that he ended up doing with it was using it as a way to show characters moving throughout different points. And so we ended up with like 6 different versions of the map to show like different versions of where they had progressed through and filled in different parts. And then he was able to like bring that into Campfire as well, and use some of those tools to kind of elevate it further. We've also got like a whole flowchart system, a timeline module as well, where people can like, you can either use it for like the history of your setting or for working out different events in your plot. It's very flexible. We created a whole calendar module. You can make fantasy calendars. It's mostly set on solar calendars right now, but there are ways you can kind of maneuver your intercalary days and months to create like lunisolar a little bit and like more influence from the lunar cycles. You can color code your moons. You can have like a whole bunch of those.
Yeah.
Which was a crazy project, just like as the designer for that, because I had to learn so much about calendars to make that work. And I spoke with a bunch of authors who had made their own calendars, trying to figure out like, all right, what crazy stuff did you do that I need to count, like I need to consider for this project. Like there was one guy who told me, I have X number of days every week, except there are intercalary weeks. And then there was another person who was like, I have alternating like 5 and 7 day weeks. Another person who was talking about, I think it was like the way that certain events had to happen on certain moons' specific lunar stages. So like moon 1, if it was a full moon, then this event would happen, but moon 2, if it's a full moon, the event would not happen. And so we ended up
that's a little crazy.
Yeah. So we ended up creating like this whole system where it's like your basic Google Calendar, basically, like try and keep it somewhat familiar, but then you can edit all of these different properties and have these alternating weeks and events that have settings in this like advanced mode where you can like assign different conditions where it's like occurs on X, years or events or seasons or celestial things, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that went into that, and it was a super fun one. But yeah, I spent months just like learning how calendars work.
Right. And now you have all this information of like, what am I going to do with this information? Yeah,
for sure.